Biden crime family blackout backfiring? How about a deep dive on a poll showing Trump victory? Is 8645 code for killing Trump? And UNICEF predicts 1.2 million lockdown deaths. This is Steve Elliott with today's Grassfire VIP briefing for our VIPs. Thank you so much for being a VIP. If you're not a VIP, we certainly could use your help right now, but let's get right to today's briefing. Of course, the big story that the media continues to try to ignore is the Biden crime family expose, which is arising out of a computer that Hunter Biden left with a computer repair shop in Delaware. He signed the work order for it. He left the computer there. He abandoned the computer. The owner of the shop then made every effort to get the information to the FBI when he realized this might be pertinent information. The FBI did eventually come and get a copy of that. I think it was last December. He never heard anything back. He tried to contact a senator, finally contacted Rudy Giuliani's office, who passed it on to the Post. That story was released last week. Some point in this process, the Post contacted Hunter Biden for a comment on this, at which point Hunter Biden's attorney contacted the computer shop owner and asked him for the hard drive. Of course, it was too late by then. The cat was out of the bag, and the media has tried to ignore this story, the Biden crime family, but it's not working. In fact, there's some things on Axios is reporting that their efforts to suppress the story may actually have caused the story to get more coverage. They have a list of the top social media interactions on Trump-Biden stories in the last week. The Hunter Biden report is far and away number one. Number two is Facebook and Twitter acting against the story. Those two combined far outweigh any other stories. Third was celebrities expressing support or criticism, support for Biden, criticism for Trump. And fourth was Savannah Guthrie moderating the Trump town hall. So clearly the efforts to suppress the story may have actually caused the story to explode even more on social media. And this is important because we know this election is not going to come down to persuasion as much as it's going to come down to motivation. And this story gives Trump supporters more motivation to vote. But the story is far from over, despite the fact that the liberal media is gaslighting it, acting like it doesn't even exist. Biden laughed when he was asked about it and walked away like, haha, what an outrageous thing to even consider. But there's lots of news, and we've got it in today's News Digest for our VIPs. Make sure you take a look at our News Digest today. We explain a story from the Gateway Pundit and why Hunter Biden actually got the $3.5 million from the Moscow mayor's wife. And there's further evidence tying Biden to Burisma. We show you the signature, Hunter's signature on the repair order. On and on it goes. We've got the image of where the deal was being brokered, where 10% was going to be held by H, which you assume that's Hunter, for the big guy. Who's the big guy? Well, anyone ask Hunter Biden or Joe Biden who the big guy is. And the fact is, the Biden team is not denying the veracity of this information. They are just gaslighting the whole story, acting as if it did. You just didn't even see it. It didn't even happen. In fact, that's probably why Biden is called a lid on all activities. I think it's from Sunday all the way to Thursday, the debate, because he does not want to answer any questions. And of course, it looks like now he's not going to be answered any questions at the debate on this topic other than what President Trump will ask him. So hopefully President Trump will ask him and repeatedly ask him the same questions if necessary, because the media is totally against this president, is totally against getting the truth out, and is totally in support of people like Governor Whitmer of Michigan, who imposed one of the worst shutdowns in the entire country, who was interviewed on national news and put the 8645 symbol in the so it was prominently displayed or certainly visible on camera. Now that is slang for 86, get rid of 45, the 45th president. 8645 has become kind of code for get rid of President Trump, but it also has an implication of to actually kill the president. If you don't think so, Urban Dictionary lists the definition of 86. To 86 someone is to get rid of, originally for killing someone. The phrase 80 miles out and 6 feet under was reserved for someone who had to dig their own grave 80 miles from civilization and then get shot execution style. Now, whether she intended to or not, Governor Whitmer was promoting a radical attack on this president, and she should apologize for it and cease and dismiss and desist of those attacks. I want to spend a little bit of time with a deep dive on the Trafalgar poll, because this poll is from the pollster who thinks Trump is ahead, who also happened to get it right in 2016. It's a great article. We have it featured in today's News Digest. Let me encourage you, if you do anything else today, read this article from the National Review, from the pollster, about the pollster. We also have a podcast interview with that pollster linked. I think you'll very much enjoy it. It gives you insight. All these polls that show Trump down 10 points or more, and this is a landslide victory, that even the Biden campaign is now coming out and saying, hold on a minute, this is a lot closer than they're saying, because they don't want their people to go to sleep, because the fact is the polls are doing the same thing they did in 2016. They are misreading the electorate. So let me just have a couple excerpts from this article. Much of Trafalgar's approach focuses on accounting for the so-called social desirability bias. That's when a respondent gives you an answer that is designed to make the person asking the question be less judgmental of the person who answers it. In other words, you're kind of concerned about what the pollster might think. The Trump shy voter complex. So they have some techniques to get around that. We use collection methods of live calls, auto calls, texts, emails, and a couple that we call our proprietary digital technology that we don't explain, but it's also digital. So what they're saying is Trafalgar uses different techniques than just phone calls to get to people and to hopefully get over this hesitancy that people have to give what their actual feeling and their actual sentiments is. What they have found is that conservatives are less likely to participate in polls in general. We see a 5-to-1 refusal rate among conservatives. So it's not just a Trump shy voter, it's conservatives in general do not trust the system of polling because they've seen them to be inaccurate so often that they are 5-to-1 less likely to even participate. So Trafalgar does some things to get over that. They have no use for relatively small sample sizes. That's one thing they do. So we don't do a state poll with less than 1,000. You see these polls with 400, 500. He doesn't buy that. So they, first of all, they don't put a lot of credibility in national polls. They go to state by state polls, and they always do at least 1,000 people, because they say with less than 1,000, the state polls you can create bias, and any national poll with 1,000 or less is too easy to manipulate. They also try to avoid waiting to get the partisan mix of respondents right. You've probably heard this, is that the typical pollsters will just randomly poll people, and if they have too many Democrats and not enough Republicans, they'll take that smaller percentage of Republicans that they were able to survey, and they will weight their votes high, their poll numbers higher, to get to the correct, what they think is the correct percentages based on exit polling. And Trafalgar's people say the problem with this is when you get a smaller percentage of Republicans, you're getting the wrong Republicans. You're not getting the shy voter Republicans. You're likely getting Republicans who are never Trumpers, who are glad to come out. And so you not only take that smaller percentage of Republicans, and then you amplify that and make the error even larger in your poll. All very fascinating. So this is what the editor of Trafalgar says. The likeliest Trump electoral path to victory involves winning the battlegrounds of North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Arizona, and either Michigan or Pennsylvania. Now, Trafalgar says that Trump is looking very strong in North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, and even Arizona. So it may come down to Michigan or Pennsylvania. Trafalgar goes on to say that he thinks Trump is going to, people's going to say that he's going to win Michigan. And here's the key, Pennsylvania. I believe Pennsylvania, this is what the spokesperson for Trafalgar said in this article. I believe Pennsylvania to be the number one state that Trump could win and have stolen due to voter fraud. So Pennsylvania is the state to watch. It is a very likely scenario that on election night, the analysts will have a tendency or the ability to call the election for Trump, but may hold out because of Pennsylvania. And then we may be in a protracted battle because the Supreme Court, thanks to John Roberts, just ruled that they can hold out for a last minute, late, even non-postmarked, I believe, mail-in votes coming in Pennsylvania and other states. So this is where the chaos could ensue, which is why the Trump campaign is working very hard to break through that. They just announced a huge media buy that will run in battleground states of Arizona, Iowa, Michigan, North Carolina, Florida, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Nevada, Wisconsin, and Ohio. And you may have noticed over the past weeks we've been talking about it. The president has been aggressively campaigning in 3 states that Hillary Clinton won: New Hampshire, Nevada, and Minnesota. This is Trump's firewall to Democrat shenanigans. If he can hold the states he won last time and win these Democrat states, even if the Democrats steal Pennsylvania, the president will have a victory. Just a few brief notes on the case demic. I just want to point to you how they're using the case demic, which is many, many, many more cases, and promoting great fear in our country because of a rise in cases, which is actually the result of an increase in testing. Here's an ABC News tweet. Trump on the attack with 15 days until votes are counted and about 55,000 new COVID cases daily. Now, what they're not reporting to you at ABC News is that they did about 1.2 million tests across the country to get 55,000 cases. It's very possible that 25% of all those cases were even false positives. But even at the rate of 4.5% positives, it's low enough that we're not dealing with, that's positive cases. That's not even in a pandemic level anymore. But the only number they're going to tout is 55,000 new cases. It's a case-demic, and they want you to be very afraid. That's their goal. But what they don't want you to see is that the lockdown is going to cause millions more deaths than the disease itself. This is from UNICEF. An additional 1.2 million children could die in 6 months due to disruption in basic interventions based on a worst-case scenario due to the lockdown, the shutdown. Here in the United States, it's quite possible we've already had over 130,000 additional deaths due to the lockdown. That's based on some analysis of excess mortality that is not attributable to COVID-19. 130,000 additional deaths already in the United States. That number is only going to increase. We could have millions more around the world because of the lockdown and the shutdown. And the American people, unfortunately, are starting to learn this and starting to overcome the fear-demic and the case-demic, and get to the truth. That's why we're here at Grassfires, to help you get to the truth. We report truth. You take action. That's how this works. And since so many of the media are not reporting truth, in fact, I ran across 3 or 4 tweets today that Twitter had again suppressed because it had dangerous, untrustworthy information, often taken straight from CDC or other websites. Just, it didn't fit the narrative. So they're either totally suppressing, censoring, or just blocking, putting dangerous warnings on there, danger Will Robertson warnings on there. They're making it difficult to get to the truth. You won't see one story on the Biden crime family expose. If you go to CNN, if you watch ABC News, they will not even report this story. They won't ask the vice president these questions. That's why we have to continue to ask the question. We have to continue to get the truth out. That's what we're doing at Grassfire, reaching more than 1 million people every day. Thank you so much for everyone who's a VIP. We need your help. If you're not a VIP, would you go to grassfire.com/VIP and help us today to get the truth out so you can take action. This is Steve Elliott with Grassfire.